Welcome to the Alphagenix podcast, where every week we talk to incredible guests from around the world of biohacking, well-being, men's health, and more. Here's your host, co-founder of Alphagenix, Ross Tompkins.
So delighted to welcome today's guest, Chris Howe, founder of Your Results Coach. Welcome, Chris.
Morning, Ross. How you doing?
Really well. It's an incredibly wet, horrible day here in the UK for everybody watching. We're in the middle of a storm.
Very autumnal. Plenty of colour though, Ross. A lot of colour that we can see. So it's still a not. I enjoy the seasons. To be fair, in the UK, I think it's. I know we're not the only country that gets seasons, but I think the changes are. I quite enjoy the change of scenery, to be honest.
And I'm sure part of today's conversation will probably come on to mindset, but you kind of touched on it already there. Some people might look outside and go, oh, but actually there is always beauty or something you can take from every situation.
100%. And I will take the conversation to wherever it needs to go to be honest, but that's probably just a real classic example of conversations that I will have with clients, not just with clients, just generally in life. It could even be my wife or my kids or friends. You talk about the weather right now, and there's obviously, right now there's a nasty storm, down the south side of the country, which looks like it's really disrupting things at the moment, which isn't great for a lot of people. But you look out the door, the first thing you could look at is it's raining, it's cold, it's dark nights are coming, dark mornings are here, the clocks have changed. But actually, if you just reframe that a little bit and just actually draw your attention, if I'm looking out my window at the moment, I've got plants that are starting to change colour. I've got leaves that are still on trees, and some trees have lost the leaves, but the colours are amazing. I look further out into the distance there, same again, loads of colour, and actually, I'll be honest, from a personal perspective, this time of year, I love the freshness and crispness of autumn anyway. So there's always a way of framing, circumstances and situations, and that's probably, you've led me into that now, but that's probably a good example of the type of conversations that I would have with people, and that's an interesting start.
Yeah, definitely. We probably jumped to the middle of the episode, so we'll go back a little bit. But my favourite time of year, just for so you know, is the spring going into the summer, where you have all of the oilseed growing, and there's fields of yellow everywhere you look, and it just brings a smile to my face every single time. But yeah, we probably have jumped forward a little bit. So if we go back to the beginning, who is Chris? Where have you come from? Tell us about your journey, and how is it that you look to help people now?
Okay, I will do my best to plough this into bite-sized chunks and bullet points. I quite like bullet points myself, to be honest. So let's look at the backstory. I'll start with career. So this year, being 2023, end of July, I exited after 24 years a career in the recruitment sector. National role, lots of traveling. I did the maths. I've driven over 500,000 miles in the last 17 years, which just sounds ridiculous, and a lot of wasted time actually when I reflect on that. But the experience that I took from that role and the development that I had as an individual, honestly, if there's any recruitment people watching this, and I hope there will be, because there's a lot of people that know me in the industry, I underestimated the experience and the skills that I developed in that sector. I think the sector can come through, it gets a hard time sometimes from customers and end users. But actually, the skills that are born out of someone that is time served in the recruitment sector is incredible. And every day goes by, and I'm in the last 3 months, I'm just more and more grateful for what I've learned. People skills, sales management, pipeline, customer service, rejection, the roller coaster of good and bad days, maintaining a balance through those sort of turbulent times. Recruitment just throws so much at you that it's been such a fantastic experience and skills that I'm just using every day now, which is I'm chuffed to bits about him. I'm very grateful for, actually, which I'm going to be honest, when I exited the sector, I didn't have quite that thought process. Exited at director level, so national responsibility for sales and operational teams. Love the industry, but and this is where the coaching part comes into things now. My natural style, and people that have worked with me, more recently as a director, when I was a director, most would say that my style is more of a coaching style. I'm certainly not a micromanager. I do not believe in it whatsoever. I think it's suppressing. I think it creates stress, anxiety. I think it puts a lot of pain into business. And that's always been my sort of natural style. Just over 6 years ago now, and I know we'll talk about where to find me and what have you, but I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. That's sort of my current chosen platform to present, and communicate and promote the work that I do. So just over 6 years ago, I hit the red button for myself in terms of my relationship with alcohol. It wasn't a 8 a.m. in the morning, white lightning, brown paper bag, that traditional thought that a lot of people will have in terms of an alcoholic. But in technical terms, I was a functioning alcoholic, fact. And I know a lot of people that are in the same place that may not be as bold and as brave to actually say that out loud and accept it. I'm going to talk about the technical terms. If you look at daily and weekly recommended allowances for drink, I was drinking in excess of that. That could be a couple of beers in an evening. It could be a bottle of wine with the wife, share a bottle of wine with the wife. That could turn into 2 sometimes, to be honest. And at the weekends, it was just party central. That was the opportunity to then drink more, because that's what you do. You go out socially. Social activity is always surrounded by drink. All of my friends, historical and new, social activity revolved around drink. But the trigger point came, and it was work related. I was working with some real large customers, big spending customers. These customers are spending, crikey, 30, 40, 50 million quid a year on labour, on my services. So obviously big spend category for them, probably the second highest outside of materials, I guess. And the pressure was immense. A lot of e-commerce business, a lot of retail business, so very, very peak centric. So right now is the time where you're building for those sale volumes for Christmas and Black Friday, this new craze that's come with the cyber weekend. And I knew, in my heart of hearts, I kept reflecting. And when you drink regularly, you don't want to admit it. You don't want to have to say to yourself, I need to stop, because that little alcohol voice that sits on your shoulder will always tell you something different. It took a lot of soul searching. It took a lot of reflection. And I knew in my heart of hearts that the levels of stress and the levels of anxiety and my mental health were considerably suffering. There's one point, and I'll never forget this. I was in an old house where I used to live, and I was in the bathroom, and I just used the loo. And my kids were quite a bit younger then, a little bit older now, obviously. And they were a little bit younger at that point. So we've got a lot of tears and tantrums and that sort of high-pitched baby crying noise or toddler crying noise, irrational behaviour, because that's what sort of young children do sometimes. And I remember just crouching down on the floor, holding my hand in my head, and my head was ringing. And I just had another beer, by the way, because I'd come in from work, and that's what you do to de-stress. And I put my hand in my head, and I stooped down in the bathroom, and I said to myself, I can't keep doing this anymore. I can't keep doing it anymore, because it just isn't working. And that was the single. I've never actually told that story out loud before, actually. So that was quite interesting for me to just do that. That was the point. I frog marched downstairs to my wife. We sorted the kids out, and I just said to her out loud, "I've got to stop drinking. I've got to do something here." And it was just I'll never forget it. It was just such a massive moment in my life. Fast forward, through, I engage with a coach. So here now starts to form the business model of what I've now launched, which I'll talk about in a sec. And I engage with a coach. I engaged with a coach to support me in terms of managing my relationship with alcohol, the tactics, the tricks, the mindset games you've got to do, the changing in habits, the changing in routines, the lack of, don't just rely on willpower. It's a behavioral reset and a behavioral change. And that lasted. In the end, I was completely and utterly sober. About 2.5 years, not a single drop ever. Didn't touch a drop. And I did a lot of work with a coach around behaviors, around mindset, around habits. And all of that work now still sits with me today, personally, with my relationship with alcohol. Since then, I'll have a drink every now and again. I'll be brutally honest. The reason I chose to do that was in times of celebration. So in times of cheers, weddings, birthdays, just chinking a little glass and having a little drink and taking part, and that's really quite enjoyable. But I've still had to go through a lot of work since breaking the full sobriety period. And then I've had a little merry dance then in terms of then continuing my relationship and work with alcohol to get to the stage that I can deem myself to be someone that can take it or leave it and would drink moderately. And that's not been a perfect path at all.
Yeah.
But you just constantly, you're always learning about yourself. So anyway, so if we then get to where I am now, so your results coach, when I went into my period of sobriety, that's actually when I started training around various models and positive psychology attached to coaching. And I applied that work inside my recruitment role. And I also started to do your results coach almost as a little bit of a sideline, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. I think one of the passions that I have, Ross, is I don't know what this is, but I'll take it, is that I can't tell you how much joy I get from seeing other individuals, particularly high potential people, senior execs, business owners they may be running a successful business, but in the heart of hearts, no, day to day, I'm not firing on all 4 cylinders. And I love to do the work and see that development and growth of those individuals. And I'll be honest, I enjoy the feedback. It could be a little message. It could be it could be a testimonial that comes to me. And I get so much joy out of somebody saying, I can't believe how much you've helped me. This has just been incredible. I didn't understand coaching before I started, but now we've done it. It's just been amazing. Thank you. So that sort of brings me to, and I suppose I filled in the backstory there because the recruitment, the stopping drinking, then forms the basis of what your results coach is all about now, Ross, really.
Love it. Well, firstly, thank you for sharing that story. It's incredibly powerful. I imagine that moment where you were down and head in your hands. And I suspect a lot of people watching this or listening to this as well will be able to relate to that in some way. Alcohol is so ingrained in our society. I have a bad day, I'll have a drink. I've had a good day, I'll have a drink. It's the weekend, I'll have a drink. It's Thursday, it's almost the weekend, I'll have a drink. Yeah. Well, Monday is practically or almost the weekend still, I'll have a drink. It's someone's birthday, I'll have a drink. It's Christmas, I'll have a drink. Someone's died, we'll have a drink. There's a reason for it always. Why do you think, that's probably a huge question, but how did that happen? Why did it happen? And why do people fall so easily into the trap of utilizing alcohol for all of those different things? Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, absolutely, it does. So, well, first and foremost, there's a few things I'll throw into that to answer that question because there's a lot we can discuss. So first and foremost, let's recognize and accept alcohol is a socially accepted drug. Yeah, it is actually one of the more addictive drugs that people have access to. Before we move to, tobacco, nicotine, before we then get onto the hard stuff, the not so good stuff. Alcohol is just such a widely available, socially acceptable drug. When we talk about socially acceptable, and you've alluded to it there, is that a lot of people watching this, and I really hope, you might never speak or see me or ever work with me. That's fine. That's no problem. But I would love people to use this conversation to take it away and start to do some self-reflection on their own relationship, because it is so socially acceptable that it's the only drug where somebody will question why you're not taking it. So I'll go out and I'm going out socially and say, I'm not going to bother drinking. You're not drinking? Why not? It's a bit boring, isn't it? So, well, no, it's not. No, here's the reason why I'm choosing not to drink, and I've got a list as long as my arm of reasons why I'm going to choose not to drink. But it's almost the norm for people. I know, and I know people very close to me struggle and find it really, really difficult to go out socially without the use of alcohol as some sort of social lubricant. And where I believe a lot of this stems from, and I had this conversation with somebody back end of yesterday, is that a lot of people, certainly out. So I'm 47 right now, and rather, however crazy I'm slightly embarrassed, but I only really learned properly about alcohol after the age of 40, in the 40s, Mm-hmm. But if we think about, typically our generation, our age, and you think about our parents, ultimately my roots are working class roots. So I used to always hear my parents, when they got together with my auntie and uncle, they would drink, and I heard laughter, and I heard fun, and I heard more laughter, and the laughter got louder. So automatically, as I've grown up from a young child, I have automatically associated alcohol with fun. So let's just think about that in practical, just normal, logical terms. You have a drink or two. Some people I know just don't even like that squiffy feeling, but you have a drink or two and you get that little bit of numbness in your head. You feel a little bit relaxed, and it does, initially can take the edge off things, should we say. Then the fun stops, really, because it's that bit that I think that people sort of hold on to, is that feeling of numbness, that feeling of relaxation, that feeling of inhibitions maybe disappearing a little bit, and confidence rising. And I think a lot of people in society, younger generations, there's a 100% shift. Younger generations now, there's a different relationship with alcohol, but people in our generation typically have grown up seeing alcohol as something that's used for fun. Mm. So you've got to remember it's a drug. It's very blooming addictive for some people, a lot of people, I should say, not necessarily for others, the lucky few. It's been socially acceptable for years. It's the one drug that people question why you don't take rather than why you do. Everything else, people would, if you said cigarettes and nicotine, people would probably, what are you doing that for? It's no good for you. Mm. And therefore, I suppose, how I'd summarize that is, and this is, something that's quite important to me, is then there is a genuine lack of understanding about what alcohol actually does do to you, because a lot of people I talk to associate it with the fun bit, the first couple of 3 drinks. What people don't understand is the aftermath for the next day, 2, 3, 5 week, however long that's going to be, is because of drink. And people don't often have that association. The increase in stress, the increase in anxiety, the lethargy, the diet goes out the window, you're eating crap, and so on and so forth. So hopefully I've answered your question, because you left me with quite a broad question, and I've tried to sort of cherry pick what I took from that, Ross. But that's my thoughts on that, really.
That was a brilliant answer, actually. And for the first time in my life, you articulated that association between alcohol and fun, and I'd never made that link before, but I could certainly see, well, as soon as you said it, I was like, wow, that resonates, and I can see how a lot of people, that's the go-to. Well, I want to have fun, or or alcohol is fun, therefore I'm going to do it. Yeah, I bet a lot of people, well, I'd like to think I'm not the only person that listened to that and went, oh yeah.
I don't think you will be, Ross, at all. I really don't. It was
really interesting, but we talked obviously off camera a little while ago, but I'm almost 2 years now into this latest episode of not drinking. It's the 4th time in my life I've stopped for a period of time. But so many times, in the past, I've been out and friends, they're obviously well past it now, but in the beginning they would say, well, you're not drinking. No. Why? Well, I don't want to. Well, what about a glass of wine? No, it's still alcohol. What about just a shot? Do you want a shot? Actually, that's still alcohol. Well, a shandy? Do you want a shandy? And of course they were doing that to make themselves feel better because they were drinking. And actually one of my best friends, we've known each other for sort of over half my life, sort of 25 years or so. I remember him saying to me many years ago, well, you're just boring. Like almost like I'm not going to even be friends with you anymore because you are so boring. And interestingly now, fast forward, that was probably 6 or 7 years ago. We were away recently together and he had stopped drinking. And he was like, I'm sleeping better. I've got more energy during the day. I've got more focus, more clarity of thought. And I was like, okay. So not such a silly idea after all. Remember when you said I was boring? Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. But it is interesting, as you say, because it is that one drug where people expect you to do it and they find it odd that you're not.
Very much. And I mean, what you've just said there, you've got my brain whirring again a little bit then, Ross, because this is the other thing, and that comment is so common. You're not drinking, you're boring, So we've probably done that to death a little bit, really, but it's just because that's how you have fun. So if you're not going to have a drink and have fun, then you're boring, which absolutely isn't the case. There is a lot of things you can do that don't need to involve alcohol that can be considerably, a lot of fun. But what you also see, and good for you, by the way, on the 2 year stint, because I've no doubt you'd be feeling quite amazing off the back of that, to be fair. So amazing. I might ask you a question on that in a sec, actually, but let me just finish this little spiel. So the boring comment is always one. But what I always found, and I saw this a lot in my job, and this is something I've learned in recruitment, and just to this day, I do spend a lot of time reading people, from what's coming out of the mouth verbally to their body language and eyes. Often there can be a different thing, a different story being told, and I had quite a bit of training around that. But so often I would go out, and yes, you'd have the people that were leathered, you're boring, come on, have a shot. No, I don't want to. But there would always be people that would hang on, and there was a genuine curiosity about, so you're not drinking, okay, so what did you do that for? Give them the backstory. Okay, so how did you do that? And what do you do for fun? Because people can't quite work out, well, what do you do if you don't have a drink, sort of thing. And that was something that gave me quite a lot of support and help in continuing managing my relationship with alcohol, because I was thinking, you almost feel like you're inspiring people, and I genuinely hope that is the case. Those that want to change, hearing this type of thing will be inspiring. I genuinely believe that. But there were people I could see the curiosity in their eye, and I could see these are people that are 5, 6, 7 drinks in, and I could see the curiosity, and you could see that you could tell that they were thinking, the brain was going on overdrive, and they were absorbing everything you said.
Yeah.
And I used to really enjoy that feeling, thinking, I've just had an impact on that person, and I'm 99% confident that they recognize they drink too much, but they just don't want to say it at this point in time.
Yeah.
And that was
easy coming out before you turned into the Chris you are now.
Yes. Well, exactly. Yeah. Same thing. Ross, you mentioned that this was I think you said your fourth sober stint. So just out of interest, just to give me a little bit of a history about your little journey there, because if it's the fourth time you've gone sober, just quite intrigued to understand what's happened with your relationship with alcohol.
Yeah, so actually it stems back to improving my physical fitness. So one of the things I love to do is climb mountains, and I have a plan to climb the 7 summits, so the highest mountain on every continent. And the first one of those that I did, which was many years ago now, as part of my training, I thought, right, well, I want to get my body in the best shape possible, so I'll stop drinking.
Yeah.
So I stopped drinking for the 3 months prior to the ascent, and then just went back to normal. When the next mountain came up a year or two later, I stopped for 6 months, and then I stopped for 9 months in preparation for the one after that. But every time kind of slipped back into this normal routine of alcohol is fun, alcohol is social, it's what you do when you get in from work. But if you ask my wife, you know, she called me all in Ross. I don't really have, I struggle with that middle ground. So I find it easy not to drink.
Yeah.
But if I'm drinking, I'm definitely going to be drinking. I'm not going to have a glass of wine. I will finish the bottle. So, you know, Joanna will say, I'll have one glass. And I'm like, okay, well, I might as well stick a straw in the rest of the bowl, because I'm never going to put half a bottle back in the fridge. So knowing that about myself, when we came to make the decision where I was going to climb three big mountains in a short space of time, a couple of years ago, I was like, right, well, I'm just going to stop until they're done. Because I know that I feel better, I feel better about my health, can push a little bit harder. And actually what happened is I went to climb the first mountain, which was Mont Blanc. People argue about what the highest mountain is in Europe. Some people think it's Mont Blanc, some people think it's Elbrus in Russia, and I'd already climbed Elbrus. So I was like, right, I'll climb Mont Blanc. And somebody died on the ascent, so we had to turn around and come back. So I didn't do that one. Then went to Argentina and climbed Aconcagua, nearly 7,000 meters.
Yeah.
And then the third mountain that I was going to do was shut for political unrest, which is in Indonesia. So I never completed the 3. And I just thought, well, I'll just keep going until I've done them. And actually that mountain still hasn't opened. So I'm still waiting. But throughout all of that, and over these years, when I look back at the times I've stopped, our life generally got better in some way. Business moved on, you know, or we moved house or something. And how I kind of think about it is, and you said something similar earlier, to the outside world, it might not look any different, but to me, it's the difference between operating at 95% or 100%. Without alcohol, I feel like I'm making quicker, better decisions. Whereas with it, I'm maybe a little bit more sluggish. So that's how it happened. Right now, I haven't told anyone, including myself, that I have stopped. I might drink again. I don't know. I'm just kind of happy as I am at the moment. And in fact, there's only 2 times in the last 2 years where I've actually thought I would like to drink. The rest of the time, I genuinely don't care. Go to parties or out for dinner and doesn't even enter my thoughts. But once was Christmas Day, because myself and my father-in-law used to love drinking port on Christmas Day. So on Christmas Day this year, I felt a bit like, oh, am I missing out? And actually, I was thinking, you know, well, Joe's getting older. There's a finite number of Christmas days we'll spend together. So I did think about it then. And recently we acquired another business, and everyone was going, oh, you should toast it. You should, you know, it's a momentous day. It's taken ages to get it over the line. And again, fraction of a second, I thought, yeah, maybe, but I didn't.
That's the business. That was quite recently, wasn't it? That's when probably the day we first spoke, I think, wasn't it? When that's the one.
Yeah. It was like 3 weeks ago.
Near my neck of the woods, that one, I think, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. It's interesting, isn't it? Like you say, the go-to is let's toast that, with something alcoholic. Very interesting. And to be fair, when I've chosen to have a drink, I have questioned it every time afterwards. I have. You sometimes think to yourself, like right now, I'm just like, there's no room for it at the moment. And it's what you just said. That was an interesting point. And this is very common. So if there's anybody watching that is reflecting at the moment and thinking, okay, well, is my relationship maybe not where it needs to be? It's very, very typical when people take a break from drink. And when we say take a break, this isn't a week or two. This is a good sustained break. You can get to 30 days. What I typically see is if you get to 30 days, you're quite eager to carry on because you're starting to feel some of the good stuff. My own opinion is I think you need probably a 12-month break from booze to really start to feel the benefits. But it's very common for people to see really positive things happening in their life, whether it's relationships, whether it's businesses you've just spoken about, whether it's the career goes in the right direction. And ultimately, it all boils back to the one common denominator is that, whether you want to believe it or not, if you are a regular drinker of alcohol, it will have an adverse effect on your performance in work, outside of work, in the gym, in terms of sport, everything. It will have an adverse effect, and it's sometimes quite difficult to accept that when you enjoy having a drink, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. My wife still drinks, although not very often. And we were at a party at the weekend, Halloween party, so we're all dressed up. I left reasonably early, and then the next day, of course, I popped out of bed and went and walked the dog and came back, and Jan was, "I'm never going to drink ever again." that common phrase that we hear all the time. And she said, "Oh, I think I came home just after you." I said, "You came home almost 5 hours after me." She was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, you came home about 3 a.m. She was like, "Oh my goodness, I don't remember any of that." But the whole day was written off. And I think a lot of people at that time, they do have that emotional response. I'm never going to drink ever again. As soon as the pain fades away, that socially accepted norm kicks back in again. Oh, well, it's the weekend or hosting something. It's very easy to slip back into it.
Very easy. That's interesting. When I had a session with one of my clients yesterday. Well, there was 2 sessions actually. Both had a degree of similarity, but one of those sessions was exactly that. It was, he is adamant he's going to control his relationship with alcohol. Family's number one, family's priority. So we're ticking all the right boxes in terms of why are you doing this. But that was something we discussed. It was, he can often give it 2 or 3 weeks, and he'd fallen off the wagon the weekend just gone. Relatively dramatically as well, and he felt awful. So on Tuesday, he just felt absolutely awful in work. A big day at work. I won't disclose all the reasons why, but it was a really big day. They were launching a brand new office, and it was just a big day for him. And he ended up just sort of tucked away in the corner somewhere, tapping away on the laptop, just wishing the day away. And on reflection, he said that's so bad. This guy owns the business. It's a big old business, and he's hiding away because he's just feeling so bloody rubbish after his weekend of drinking. And he said the same thing. He said, problem is, Chris, 2 or 3 weeks, I forget about how rough I felt, and it's a distant memory. And then it's always a good idea to sort of to treat myself and have a drink. So we've done some work as part of his session in terms of making sure we don't forget that. So there's a couple of exercises that he is now working on, and he'll share with me on Thursday, which will make sure that we've got things written down. We've got feelings and emotions written down, so that actually, rather than allowing it to be forgotten, it's a lot more raw if we're going to go back to something you wrote down at the time and when you felt as bad as you did. But then you think about it, then you talked about writing off the day afterwards. Write off the day afterwards with your family. My biggest gain from controlling my relationship with alcohol is the patience of my relationship with my two boys. Period. Sleep's good, by the way, but my relationship with my kids is next level. And the most embarrassing thing and it is embarrassing, but I'm so comfortable to talk about it because it's maybe the bloke I am now, and I'm quite happy with the bloke I am now, is that I didn't realise how impatient I was being with the kids until I'd had a good period of sobriety. And then I was sitting there, it's in the old house, next village up the road, and I was sitting with my youngest. You were sitting in bed, you always read a little book at bedtime, and I remember sitting there, I looked and thought, bloody hell, I've been up here for like over an hour and a half, you know. Bloody hell, I can't believe that. And it was at that moment I just sat and thought, I remember back in the day, I'd rush at bedtime. These are the kids are little now. I'd rush bedtime because all I wanted to do was get back downstairs and just get a glass of wine and sit with the wife downstairs, you know. So that chasing of that glass of wine, because the addiction was there, was driving a real shortness and impatience and lack of presence with me kids. But when you're in it, you don't realise, you know, you don't think like that. But then when you come out and you just get that fog cleared and you look back, and I thought, oh my God, how impatient was I being with the kids? And it wouldn't just be bedtime. It'd be snapping at them as well, you know, and for you haven't done a lot wrong. And they're just kids at the end of the day, you know. And that is something, and it is embarrassing to have not recognised that when you're in that routine of regular drinking. But the fact I've recognised it and realised it now, that's huge for me in terms of knowing that just drinking regular, I mean, there's probably more painful things I can use to stop me drinking regularly again than that. But that's a huge benefit and it was like a real, you know, light bulb moment really. But I was a little bit embarrassed for that light bulb to sort of come on. It's like, whoa. But, you know, we live and learn, don't we? We live and learn.
Yeah. And again, thank you for sharing that, you know, really important moment in your life. And I can certainly, again, relate to that. And I remember back to when my kids were small and being impatient with them. And now I wouldn't ever dream of reacting in that way. You know, and I look back, what was different? Well, was I more stressed then? No. You know, was I less healthy? Well, probably. Was I drinking? Yeah. There aren't too many things that were different, but that was certainly one of them. And yeah, I'm definitely a lot more patient now than I was, you know, in my 20s or 30s. So that's probably a really good time to go into your coaching. So you mentioned, you know, some work there with a couple of gentlemen, and you gave some examples. But one of the things we always like to get across from, you know, with this channel and the guests that we talk to are some people can take away some actionable steps and things to help them. So when someone comes to you and they say, right, you know, I'm an open book, I want to improve my life in some way, is there a methodology that you take? Is there a set time frame? Is it a 4-week course, a 12-week course? How does it work?
So my service it's one. So I've got there's three verticals, but let's concentrate on the sort of the one-to-one coaching, because the other elements are corporate wellness coaching with senior leadership teams, and also sort of consultancy, non-exec activity in the recruitment sector. But if we just part those two just for the moment and concentrate on one-to-one, the coaching that I offer, I don't put anybody right now anyway. Nobody goes through a prescribed program that says day one you're doing this, week one you do this, week two you're doing that, and so on and so forth. Because right now, what I want to offer is a 1-for-1 service. Whilst there may be common themes with all of the clients I'm working with now, there are very distinct differences in terms of not all of them have got issues with alcohol. Some are actually got it in a good place. So we're actually concentrating more on mindset and business. To think about the two clients from yesterday, because they were fresh meetings yesterday. One is very specific about alcohol. The other is alcohol, but his last session we're on business, and next session round we're back onto business again. So the way that my coaching works is it is a very pure coaching service that I offer. Packages or retained relationships And the areas that I'll cover: alcohol-free and alcohol control. Obviously, we've spoken at quite a bit of length around that now. And that's based on the fact that I'm super passionate about helping people with that situation. And of course, I've earned the stripes, and I've got the battle scars to be able to support with that, and I've got the framework to be able to help people and coach them through those sort of things. It will also include mindset. It will also include life, and it will also include business. But I'm very, very, and I actually quite enjoy this with the coaching that I do, is that I'm very much led by the client in terms of the direction of travel that we take. If a client, let's say, so I've got another client, we due a catch up on Friday. We've done some cracking work with him, and his has been a little bit more about mindset. And we had a little, through the questioning that I use and through the coaching models that I use, we just had a real eureka moment with him about 3 weeks ago, where we were trying to unpick this. He just felt hard done by. I won't go into all the details of his backstory, but he was feeling very hard done by. This guy is a very successful business owner. He's a millionaire, but he was just not in a good place. And the reason being is there's things going on with his business that were actually out of his control. But we just had a real eureka moment now, and it's really, really helped his mindset. So for him to understand, why was I feeling so flat? Why was I feeling so frustrated? And we uncovered it, and it came out of one of the sessions, which was brilliant. He called it an aha moment. I actually put the testimonial on socials because he wrote to me afterwards. It was brilliant. But now for him, he's thinking, I'm not too sure where we go from here, Chris. So that's fine. Now I've then got models that I can then use where we actually start to, it allows me to get to explore their mind a little bit more, and that can be anything, whether it's going to be, so he's okay with alcohol, whether that's life, it's relationships, it's finances, it's social, it's business, whatever it's going to be. I have tools that I can use to start to really explore and extract in certain elements of his life, to start working on actually what areas do you want to improve. Because the fact of the matter is, however happy you are, in general, using these models, if you map it all out, there's always going to be something you can tweak. Business could be flying, absolutely flying, making money, no issues, staff are happy, everything's flipping great, couldn't be happier, brilliant. But because I've been plowing so much time and attention into my business, actually my physical activity's taken a drop. Or actually nutrition, I'm really not eating well because I'm on the road so much, because I've plowed so much time and effort into this successful business. And by default, that then diverted into start exploring areas where actually the client feels that they want to improve. So what I'm trying to do, and what I am doing, is there are certain topics such as alcohol where I could produce a bespoke sort of automated program. But right now, even when I'm talking to people around alcohol, there are different strategies that we have to piece together for them. It's not a one size fits all as far as I'm concerned with my clients. So hopefully that's answered your answer. It's very, very much, it's a 1-for-1 service that I offer, and the direction of travel can literally go anywhere. And I'll be honest, I quite enjoy that. So I'll enter onto a session. I've got one later today, and later this morning actually, and I don't know where it's going to go. Quite looking forward to be honest. And we'll just see what direction of travel we take, and using the models that I use, we'll generate outcomes, and we'll find a direction of travel. So
yeah, I really like that. We're all different. Everyone on the planet looks different, apart from identical twins. We are all different. We've all had different lives. We've had different pressures, different things that have molded us, made us who we are. So the notion for me that there is a cookie cutter approach that you can just place onto everybody and it will work kind of doesn't ring true for me anyway. So I really like the way you do things, and you kind of unpack things and figure it out as you go and work out what's best for that person. That's certainly how we approach hormonal health as well at Alphagenix. It's not just here, do this. It's what's right for you, and other things do we need to discuss? So yeah, I really like that. I think a lot of people as well will be watching and going, that makes sense.
I mean, I've done programs myself for different things. I've been in a program right now just around sort of content writing and creative writing, and that is a very specific go through this program in this order, and it's fine, it works. I'm learning a few bits and pieces, but this is me as an individual. I would much prefer to be sitting and working with somebody, not an AI coach, by the way, because I keep hearing things around AI therapy and things like that, but sitting with a human being, sharing ideas, having the opportunity to offload what's in my head. I'm a pretty driven, intelligent bloke. And the answers are in there somewhere. Just sometimes using a coach, because I use coaches myself, offloading and having the opportunity to have this type of conversation now with some quality questions being asked to help to unpick what's happening in your mind. I just find really valuable myself. I mean, like I say, I use a coach myself for a business. I just find it really valuable. So yeah, programs can just feel a little bit less personal, really, because it isn't just about you. It's about a typical problem, and you might not view that problem the same as other people, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think it comes back to, I think we're all different. Some people, we all have different learning styles. Some people might like nothing better than just to squirrel themselves away and to follow a set path or a set program. I'm like you though, and I actually much prefer this, and I actually prefer meeting people in person and really delving into a question and understanding how that relates to me and how I can change things. And I get way more out of that than a program. And actually, I have signed up to them in the past, and I've given up signing up to any of those programs now because I never finish it. At least now I've learned now, and I think it might sound brilliant on paper, but I know after the first 60 minutes, I'm just going to turn it off. Not bother anymore.
And I think that's, if I mean, as an individual, if I go back to my school reports, the word gregarious was used quite a lot. And when I asked what that meant, because I didn't understand at school, and actually the teacher said monkey-like. Right, okay, but actually, when you explore the definition properly, it's just someone that's just social. Someone that sort of almost comes out of themselves and in and around people and social environments. And it's so true. The way that I approach, there are a lot of different ways and means of approaching coaching. Ultimately, the purest form of coaching, it's not mentoring, it's not advising, it is, it's a purest form. But I have just found when I spoke about coming out of recruitment with the skills that I've gained, even pre-recruitment, the gregarious Chris with a bit of energy about him, and everything I've learned in recruitment, everything about me as an individual, and now an owner of a coaching practice and business that I want to grow this, and I want to scale it, and I want to impact as many lives as I can. But it all boils down to that, is that, it's an interpersonal thing, and I have such a curiosity and interest in people that when I talk to them, and my job by asking questions is, someone that's working with me, you've got to trust me, and you can trust me, but you've got to feel that you can trust me, because when we create this safe space, this safe sort of space from a coaching perspective, it's the client's opportunity to basically, everything comes out, every card you put it on the table, because the most fruitful results and outcomes that I've had are from where people have really, really worked in that way. If you're holding things back and you're maybe not sharing everything, it can be quite difficult to achieve the results through this sort of work. But ultimately, just looking at myself as an individual, it's people. So I'm probably in a good. I've probably now evolved what I should have been doing for many, many moons now. To be honest, you just like I say, working with people, understanding people, and looking to facilitate their growth. And I suppose if I looked at I did a lot of work when I was sort of looking at taking the practice onto a full-time basis, and looking at the sort of your ideal client. And ultimately, my ideal client, really what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for me 6-7 years ago, senior exec, busy role, young family, drinking a bit too regular, possibly, doesn't have to be, under the stress and strain, and limited avenues to go for accountability. For all my clients say the same thing, is that they don't have anywhere or anyone to go to that's either not a relative or just a friend. So to be able to go almost like a diagonal line out of your life to someone that you can offload to, that you will develop a good working relationship with, that has got your best interests at heart, but will hold you accountable for the things that you're agreeing that you're going to do. I just massively believe in it. I do it myself with my own coach, and I think when you're at the top of the tree, you're a business owner. Where do you go? You can't go and talk to your staff about the fact you're having a bad day, or some people may do, but as a rule, and particularly if you're a bloke, where do you go? Where do you go to offload and just get that safe space to rattle through things? And just new client I work with on Monday, he just keeps talking about this fog. I know what I've got to do, but there's just a fog there. So what's our job now? Well, let's clear the fog. Let's get some clarity and let's move forward. So, and it's just, I may have waffled on a little bit there, Ross, to be honest, but it's just it comes back to just being a people person, and a genuine desire and passion for just seeing people, develop and grow. It's brilliant.
You said something really, really, I think, important there, because as business owners, where do you go? I agree. You can't really go to someone that you work with and reveal you're having a bad day, or reveal there's problems at work, because then they'll panic, and your job is to be there to support them. So, and you said another interesting thing, which is, as a man, and men do find it more difficult to open up because of that historic role where we are the protectors and the providers. And we talk about this a lot on this channel, but I think rather flippantly, people sometimes say, "Oh, men just need to open up and talk." Well, yes, that can help, but who do they talk to? If they talk to their boss and their boss isn't ready to shoulder that responsibility, maybe they get fired. If they open up to their wife and their wife's not ready to shoulder that responsibility, because you have to do a certain amount of work on yourself to do that, maybe they get divorced. And that we've come across that, with some of the gentlemen we work with. And maybe if they go to their friends and their friends laugh at them, ridiculed, because they're not ready to shoulder that responsibility. So I think it's really important, that people do have outlets, whether that's through coaches, mentors, communities, where they know it's a safe space to share. So I think it's great work that you're doing. If people have been watching and they want to reach out to you, how do they find you?
So best place right now will be via LinkedIn. I think we'll probably tag the URL for my link, but I'm really active on LinkedIn. So there's lots of posts, there's lots of stories, there's videos. So there's quite a useful source of information, just so people can start getting a feel for what I'm all about. If anyone wants to pursue any conversation, just reach out to me via LinkedIn. Just direct message me. My profile's open, so you'll be able to direct message me whatever LinkedIn membership you've got anyway. And even if it's just for an initial chat and you just want to pick my brains, give me a shout. Of course, if somebody's at the stage where you're thinking, do you know what, I think I'm probably ready to start looking at working with a coach, then I'm all ears. I'm ready to take on more customers. I have got a cap, but there's still a bit of headroom. So reach out via LinkedIn and we'll meet up and see if there's some common ground.
Brilliant, Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure. So I'll let you crack on with the rest of your day, and I'll speak to you very soon.
Good man. Thanks, Ross. Yeah, take care. Cheers, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Alphagenix podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss next week's episode. For more resources on Alphagenix and men's health, visit alphagenix.co.uk. Until next time.